Welcome to our channel. Today we're diving into a critical topic that affects us all, the stability of American democracy and the very real possibility of civil unrest. It might sound dramatic, but think about it. We've seen empires crumble and democracies falter. It's true that peaceful protests have turned violent throughout history. The question isn't if it can happen here, but if it will. And the answer, unfortunately, is a resounding yes. Look, I'm not saying we're all destined to be reenacting scenes from the movie Escape from New York anytime soon, but there are warning signs, trends that frankly should make us all deeply concerned. Here are the 7 alarming signs that civil unrest could occur in America. Buckle up, folks, because this isn't your average listicle. Number 7, political polarization in America. Remember when you could talk politics without ending up in a screaming match or unfriending someone on Facebook? Yeah, me neither. America is more politically divided than ever, and it's not just your drunk uncle at Thanksgiving anymore. We're seeing a breakdown in civil discourse, where differing opinions make people enemies. This polarization creates fertile ground for extremism. It's like a political tug of war, and the rope is fraying. Demonizing the other side and refusing to compromise is a recipe for disaster. The people in power often fan the flames instead of building bridges. We need to remember we're all Americans and share a common destiny. We need to start listening to each other and rejecting divisive politics. Number 6, economic inequality and social unrest. Let's be honest, America's always had a bit of a problem with wealth distribution. It's the whole land of opportunity thing, but with the caveat that some people get a head start the size of Texas, while others are stuck at the starting line. But lately, the gap between the haves and the have-nots has become more like a chasm. We're talking about a system where CEOs make hundreds of times more than their employees, where healthcare is a luxury, and where a college education can leave you drowning in debt. This isn't just unfair, it's unsustainable. When people feel like the system is rigged against them, they get desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. History is full of examples of economic inequality leading to social unrest. Think about the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, or even the American Revolution itself. People push to the brink, demanding change, and often resorting to violence when they don't get it. Now, I'm not saying we're on the verge of storming the Bastille, although that does sound kind of fun, doesn't it? But we can't ignore the warning signs. We need to address the primary causes of economic inequality, create a fairer system. I think we can all agree that we should give everyone a fighting chance. Number 5, social media and the spread of disinformation. Social media, the digital town square where everyone has a voice, where information travels at the speed of light, and where, let's be honest, cats wearing tiny hats reign supreme. It's also a breeding ground for misinformation, conspiracy theories, and outright lies. Social media algorithms, those sneaky little devils, are designed to keep you engaged, even if that means feeding you a steady diet of outrage and fear. And let's not forget about the bots, those automated accounts, spreading propaganda and amplifying division like it's their job, because, well, it is. The problem is, when you're constantly bombarded with misinformation, it becomes harder and harder to separate fact from fiction. You start to doubt everything, trust no one, and retreat into your own echo chamber. This creates a perfect storm for civil unrest. As people become more susceptible to manipulation, more likely to believe the worst about those who disagree with them. We need to be critical thinkers, to question what we see online, and to be wary of anything that seems too good or too bad to be true. Number 4, the erosion of trust in institutions, broken promises. The erosion of trust in institutions. Remember when you could actually trust the government, the media, and other institutions to do their jobs and tell the truth. Yeah, me neither. It feels like every day brings a new scandal, a new lie, a new example of those in power putting their own interests above those they're supposed to serve. This erosion of trust is like a crack in the foundation of our society. When people lose faith in the system, they become disillusioned, cynical, and more likely to embrace extreme solutions. It's like going to a mechanic because your car is making a funny noise and they just shrug their shoulders and tell you to drive it until it explodes. You wouldn't accept that, would you? So why are we accepting it from our institutions? We need to demand better, hold those in power accountable, and rebuild trust in the systems that are supposed to protect us. Otherwise, we risk creating a vacuum that could be filled by something far more dangerous. Number 3, civil rights violations and public sentiment. The right to protest, to speak your mind, to be treated equally under the law, these are the cornerstones of any functioning democracy. But when those rights are chipped away, ignored, or stepped on, it sends a loud and dangerous message that some people are more equal than others. We've seen this time and time again throughout history, and unfortunately, we're seeing it play out in America today. From illegal voting rights efforts to police brutality against marginalized communities, the message is clear: your rights are only as good as those in power allow them to be. And when people feel like their basic rights are under attack, they're more likely to fight back. Think about the civil rights movement or the ongoing struggle for racial justice. These movements were born out of necessity, out of a desperate need for change when the system failed to provide it. We can't afford to ignore these warning signs. We need to protect the rights of all Americans, regardless of race, religion, or gender. We need to create a society where everyone feels safe, respected, and heard. Number 2, increased protests and public discontent. A rising chorus protests, demonstrations, marches, rallies, call them what you will, but they're all expressions of the same thing: a deep well of dissatisfaction with the status quo and making it change. And lately that well seems to be overflowing. From climate change to economic inequality to racial injustice, people are taking to the streets in record numbers to make their voices heard. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Aren't protests a good thing? Isn't that how democracy is supposed to work? And you're right, to a point. Peaceful protest is a fundamental right, a vital way to hold those in power accountable. But when those protests become more frequent, more desperate, and more prone to violence, it's a sign that something is deeply wrong. It's like the pressure cooker analogy. If you keep the heat on and don't let off any steam, eventually something's got to give. We need to listen to the concerns of the protesters, address the root causes of their anger, and find ways to channel their frustration into productive dialogue and meaningful change. Now, before we get to number 1, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notifications so you don't miss a single video on survival. I would love to hear your comments below. What direction do you think our country is heading? Give me your thoughts. Number 1, militarization of police and impending unrest. The thin blue line. Remember when the police were there to protect and serve? Now it feels like they're gearing up for war. The increasing militarization of police forces across America is one of the most chilling signs that civil unrest is a very real possibility. We're talking about armored vehicles, riot gear, military-grade weapons, equipment that wouldn't be out of place in a war zone, but that's now being deployed on American streets. This isn't just about optics, though. That's certainly part of it. It's about a fundamental shift in mindset, a blurring of the lines between law enforcement and military action. When you equip police officers like soldiers, they start to see the people they're supposed to protect as the enemy. And when that happens, it's only a matter of time before someone gets hurt. We need to demilitarize the police, rebuild trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve, and remember that the answer to social unrest isn't more force, but more understanding. The road ahead, a call to action. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The signs are there. America is facing some serious challenges, and the possibility of civil unrest is very real, but it's not inevitable. We can still turn things around, but it's going to take all of us working together. When we become desensitized to violence, whether it's on the streets, in our homes, or on our screens, it becomes easier to justify, to accept, and even to participate in. We need to reject violence in all its forms, promote peace and understanding, and remember that we're all in this together. Thank you for watching. Stay informed and stay safe.